Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach Bootstrap number 5. Today's lesson is about typography, okay? As you can see down here, there's a lot of things that I put in, but don't be scared. These are just very simple tags that you've encountered before, but with a little bootstrap twist, okay? We're going to be looking at the heading and then the display headings, which is a more, emphasized version of headings, and then the small for secondary text, mark for like highlight, ABBR for abbreviation, KBD for like keyboards, block codes for, coding from other sources, DL for description list, then code when you want to put in your code, and pre for pre-formatted text, okay? Let's move on to the first part, headings. Headings 1 to 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bootstrap uses 16 pixels for font size and 1.5 for line height by default. I just want to mention that. And all P elements, so the paragraphs element, have a margin top equals to 0 and 16 pixel for margin bottom. In vanilla HTML, if you just use the H1 to 6 tags, you can see that, the texts are way bigger. But for Bootstrap, it gives the text a bold weight, so the text will be bold. And it also gives a responsiveness to the text. So as you, readjust your browser or switch to another device, the text will follow, okay? So it's not quite restricted and fixed as the vanilla HTML tags would be. And just very simple, you need to put class equals to H1 if you want to go for heading 1, H2 if you want to go for heading 2, so on and so forth. Let's move on to the next part, which is display headings, larger font size and lighter font weight, okay? And just like how you would with, headings, instead of H1, you go all out display 1 with a hyphen in between, okay? So no spacing, just a hyphen in replacement of that. Let's move on to the next part, small, mark, and abbreviation. As I've mentioned before, small is for a secondary text, and you can do this with any sort of text as well as heading. Mark has a yellow background and padding. By default, it is for highlight, and ABBR is abbreviation, as I've mentioned. It has its own format that I will clearly show you. When we move on to the demonstration part, it's hard to describe, all the styling. I don't think you can visualize it well in your mind if I just describe the Bootstrap styling compared to the vanilla HTML. Move on to the next part is the block quote, okay? Block quote is a whole container in itself, and you can also include a block quote footer to, quote where this is from, right? First, we have the block quote container with the class block quote. That's when HTML know, okay, use Bootstrap for this. And then you have a paragraph, and you can put whatever quote you want in here. And down below, you have a footer with a class block quote footer with its own styling, okay? And it comes with a hyphen by default. And then you just close the block quote, and that's it. All right? Now, DL for description list, I've talked about this in my previous HTML lessons. DL is for description list, DT is for description term, and DD is for description, okay? You just put all of these in a container, fixed container, fluid container, whatever containers you want, and, the format will follow. So we have description term is orange juice. This will be in bold, and then we have the description of the orange juice. It's a beverage made from squeezed oranges. And this will, not be bold, regular text. To the next part, code, KBD, and pre, which is the last part of this lesson. So code, I have an example here, inline CSS. And then I have a code tag, open code tag, style equals to font weight, 16 pixels, for example. And then I just close the code tag, okay? You don't need to, add in any sort of classes or anything like that. Same with KBD and pre. It's the same as DL. Just put it in a container and you'll be good, okay? KBD for keyboards. Once again, pre-formatted text. Any spacing, any new line breaks is preserved in pre, okay, which is not, they are not preserved if you just use like a paragraph tag, for example, okay? And pre obviously has its own padding, has its own margin, and font weight and font size. Let's start with some heading. We have P class H1 for heading 1. Okay, I'm gonna move down below and move on with display headings. H1 class display 1, display 1, and see how it is different from the above. All right, let's move on to the next part. Small p. This is the main text, and small. This is the secondary text. Okay, just gonna fix this part, and then let's go down here and move on to mark. If you want to highlight something, use mark, use the mark tag. Okay, next up is abbreviation. Now ABBR means abbreviation. Okay, then we have block quote in class equals to block quote. I'm just going to give some spacing up here. P, this is a very, very, very long quote, and I'm just going to type whatever. Then let's move on to the footer. Class block quote footer from me, and then we close it, and that's it for block quote. Let's move on to description list. Okay, this is a description list, and then description term, orange shoes, description, shoes made from oranges. Okay, and then what's next? Tea, right? Beverage made from tea leaves. Okay, now that's it for description list. Let's move on to code. Example of inline CSS code style. Let's see, background color, let's make it red. Okay, and then little period at the end here. Next up is KBD. Use KBD Control S to save. And I add spacing here, and it's not capital S, it's just S, sorry. And last one is pre for pre-formatted text. I'm just gonna add a bunch of spacing, pre-format. Sorry with the auto type there. Formatted text. Okay, this for pre-formatted text, contrast to save. And I'm just gonna add line breaks, actually, 2 line breaks after each. Okay, add it here, block code as well, description list over here, and then for code, KBD, and that's about it. Okay, as you can see here, we have our heading 1, and then we have the display 1. Display 1 obviously has more pop, has more emphasis compared to your heading, and then main text and secondary text. Although this might be harder to see, there's a difference between the text format over here and over here. This is thinner, lighter, and a little bit smaller. Okay, now next up is highlight something using the mark tag. Okay, now ABBR means abbreviation, but then you don't see special formatting for ABBR. Okay, Well, this is because you need to have the title attribute of ABBR. Just writing ABBR alone is not enough, okay? Now we're going to change that. Let's find ABBR and give it a title attribute, abbreviation, okay? Contrast to save, and let's see if this works. Now, as you can see, we have a little dotted underline under the ABBR, and if you hover over it, it says abbreviation, okay? Now, ABBR tag goes with the title attribute, all right? Next up, this is a very, very long quote from me. It has a long hyphen by default, and this is a description list with, bold, text, orange juice, and tea, and all of that. Next up is code, example of inline CSS, style, background, color, red. And it appears like this, okay? And for Control S, there's no styling, so there must be something wrong with my code, and I'm gonna check it right. It's supposed to be KBD, but I've only typed KB, okay? My bad. Just fix that, Control S, and then you have it, okay? Very simple like that. So there are, petty mistakes like that. You have to pay attention, and if you don't, like I did, you would run into issues. And if you're dealing with thousands and thousands of lines of codes, it'll be quite complicated. And pre-formatted text, preserves all of the spacings, all of the new lines, line breaks, and it has its own font, it has its own font weight and whatnot. Now that's it for Bootstrap typography. Next topic, we're going to be delving in colors, okay? Very simple, very straightforward. So thank you for watching until the end. I do really appreciate it. Don't forget to tune into my next lesson. Please do like and subscribe. Learn today, better tomorrow. Goodbye.